After some of my reading experiences, I have decided that society has progressed beyond the need for big five publishing houses. And wouldn't you know, it's published by Simon & Schuster, another big five publisher book that disappointed me. Couldn't be. In terms of the book itself, the cover and formatting were well done, but I had to take a point away because there were typos in this. You know how all these people are like, you gotta get a professional editor, you gotta pursue professional publishing, let's go query all of these big publishers, because one time I read a self-published book and it had a typo where it used Y-O-U-R instead of Y-O-U''re. Well, guess what? This book was typos out the ass. There were just typos everywhere. Simon & Schuster, put them on blast.
This book was published by Simon & Schuster, who, funnily enough, are the same people that published Gabbie Hanna's poetry books. And I have to say to Simon & Schuster, what the flipping flip are you doing? You are giving book writing, publishing, all of it just a really, really bad name. It is so clear that all of these YouTuber books are just a quick cash grab. No one works with these YouTubers to edit what they're saying or try to put out any good kind of quality content. It's clear that they just say to this YouTuber, we'll give you X amount of money for 200 pages, write whatever you want, and then these YouTubers fill the pages with whatever crap they want. For example, hi, my name is Jake Paul, and something filler poetry, blah blah blah. And then they're handed a paycheck, Simon & Schuster put it in a pretty little package, throw a bunch of marketing behind it. They don't even need that big a budget because these people already have an established audience, and then they all make a ton of money from it. And it just gives the whole art of book writing a terrible, terrible, terrible name, because it means that all this trash is being put out there and called a published book. I'm sorry, I'm struggling, aren't I? I know, I'm sorry. Mwah.
Let's also talk about Janice Dickerson. Her name's actually Janice Dickinson. Good job, Simon & Schuster, making sure we don't have any typos like those stupid self-published books. Thank you for your quality control in literature. Oh my god. I learned that while some people define themselves as bisexual, many people look down upon the term as indecisive, as a phase you pass through on your way to being gay, or as a cop-out used by homosexuals who want to reap the benefits of being semi-heterosexual. And you're the one writing a book. You're the one who got a book deal from fucking Simon & Schuster to write this. It should come as no surprise to you, if you've been following me for any period of time, that I can be kind of a drama queen sometimes, and that I'm not usually one to back down from a fight. In fact, I can be a little bit confrontational, I can be a little bit aggressive, and I am really, really in favor of standing up for things I believe in, even if it means wasting hours and hours in Twitter fights, hours that would have been much better spent making a new video or writing a new book or something like that. But one argument that I can never back down from, whether it is in my comment section on YouTube or in my Twitter, the one argument that I will never back down from, and that you can waste hours and days of my time in if you want to, is the argument about the merits of self-publishing. I have had too many people come into my comment section to tell me that self-publishing is not a valid form of getting your work into the world, or that the only way to verify that writing is truly good is if it has gone through the agent and publisher process. A lot of people glorify the big five publishing corporations. I'll put them up on the screen. They say it's a way to keep our literature in quality control. Today we're going to look at a couple of articles of people bashing on self-publishing, which I think is one of the most amazing forms of communication, storytelling, and dissemination of information that exists in the internet age. And then from there, move into why the company Simon & Schuster has been guilty of literally every single complaint that people have about self-publishing and more. So if you guys are ready for another video that combines big corporation bashing, small business support, and a discussion of books and writing and how books come into the world, then this is absolutely the video for you. Today we're going to discuss why Simon & Schuster absolutely sucks.
Hit you some nuts.
There was lots of memes.
Makes me wonder if I should take up lesbianism.
Chicago.
You guys asked for it.
What's up, my up, fellow small business supporters? I'm Savvy. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, welcome for the first time. Every Monday and Friday at 11 a.m. Central, I put out new videos about books and business, and on my second channel, Your Morning Guru, every morning at 8 a.m. Central, 9 Eastern, my friend and I live stream living the lives of various business, self-help, wellness, those type of gurus. We read their self-help books, we try to live their life, we see what we can learn from them. We're just wrapping up a week of living like Jim Henson and learning about puppets and Muppet building. I'm filming this video in advance, so right now my puppet only looks like this so far, but I'm sure if you watched our show this morning, I hope the puppet looks better by then. Right? Did you look better? I don't know, Sam. I can't tell the future. I'm not a psychic puppet. A lot of you guys know that self-publishing is something that I really love. I have put 11 books out in my lifetime. 10 of them were self-published and 1 was traditionally published. Brief overview for those of you who are new to the book type of world. Traditional publishing is the process where you as an author give the rights of your work to a publisher, and that publisher takes on all risk and cost associated with producing the book, including paying for the editing of it, paying for the cover design, getting the book printed, getting the book distributed to stores and online retailers like Amazon and other websites and things like that. That publisher takes that on and then pays you a percentage of the profits as a royalty on that book, and then you receive those royalty payments. So you don't put in any money up front, but the publisher takes a cut of the revenue as the book sells. Self-publishing is where you produce the book yourself. It's more of the entrepreneurial model where you pay for any services that you want, such as editing or cover design, or else you'll have to do all those things yourself. And if you don't have the skills to do those things yourself, you'll likely want to hire someone. You do all of that, you take on the financial risk, and then you keep 100% of the profits and the rights. On this channel, we have talked about vanity presses, which are the companies that charge you to publish the book and then take a percentage of your royalties. They try to make money on both ends. We don't support those companies here. Those companies are exploitative and trying to take advantage of authors. So quick disclaimer, when I'm talking about self-publishing, I am not talking about vanity presses. I am talking about authors who take an entrepreneurial approach to their work. So I have been on both sides of the spectrum. However, as a quick disclaimer, I have never had a deal with a big 5 publishing corporation. I don't like to work with big companies like that, and I just haven't really pursued it. So that's not really my thing. So if you want someone who has, experience actually working with Simon & Schuster, I can't speak to that side of it. I can just speak to some of the other things about this company and why it sucks. So the one book that I traditionally published was my recent YA novel, 90s Kids. It's linked in the description below. That book recently came out with a small press called Muse Media that publishes books related to music and the performing arts. And then the most recent book I put out directly after that was a self-published book that me and RK, my co-host on Your Morning Guru, we put out together called Cancel Sean Boston. The biggest self-publishing project I've taken on is Forever Home Friends, which is me actually starting up my own business. For that, I decided I did not want to work with a big publishing company on that because this company was mine. I wanted to produce books like I wanted to produce plushies. I wanted to produce books like I wanted to produce merch. However, I have gotten in a lot of fights on the internet with people who really loathe self-publishing because they think it's bringing down the quality of literature as a whole. But what if I told you that actually Simon & Schuster, one of the biggest publishing companies in existence, is bringing down the quality of literature more than self-publishing ever could? Quick disclaimer, once again, when I say it's bringing down the quality of literature, that is based on my own opinion of what quality is. And if you trust my personal reviews, then you're going to hear a lot of my opinions and ranting on why I think these books suck. I'm just here to say that quality control in literature is a whole bunch of bullshit. Let's get back to it. So before we get into what is so awful about Simon & Schuster, let's talk about why people hate self-publishing and therefore value these large publishing corporations in the first place. All right, y'all, let's take a look at this article from Huffington Post. By the way, the authors of all these articles I'm going to read are regular-ass people. Do not send them hate. If you send them hate, I will send you hate. Just kidding, I won't send you hate, but I'll be very disappointed to you. I'll be like your mom looking at you going, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed, and that's gonna hurt worse than anything. Anyway, this article is called Self-Publishing, an Insult to the Written Word. As a published author, I'm often asked why I don't self-publish. Surely you'd make more money if you got to keep most of the profits rather than the publisher, they say. I'd rather share a cabin on a Disney cruise with Donald Trump than self-publish. Oof, those are fighting words. To get a book published in the traditional way, and for people to actually respect it and want to read it, you have to go through the gatekeepers of agents, publishers, editors, national and international reviewers. These gatekeepers are assessing whether or not your work is any good. Readers expect books to have passed through all the gates, to be vetted by professionals. This system doesn't always work out perfectly, but it's the best system we have. Spoiler alert, one of the books we're going to be discussing that Simon & Schuster published is The Straight Girl's Guide to Sleeping with Chicks. If you don't remember that review, here's a quick excerpt. I'd like to point out a special bonus prize the straight girl population might not be aware of. Because you're a chick dealing with other chicks, you have the Curious Straight Girls All-Access Backstage Pass. You automatically gain entry to saunas, group showers, dressing rooms, and a host of other intimate settings where women are not only off their guard, but naked. You have a coveted VIP pass. Don't waste it. Most guys will put a little more pressure on you to have sex if you're being lazy about it. A girl will understand and just give you a cuddle. A few too many nights like this, and you're living with your best friend, not a girlfriend. Who let this book pass through all the gates saying that it's okay to literally sexually harass women in the locker room? Who let a self-help book say that? Who let a self-help book come out here and invalidate the entire existence of bisexuality? Who let a self-help book come out here and say that it's good to allow men in a relationship to pressure you into sex when you don't want it because that makes the relationship better? If that's the best system we have, then fuck it. Just burn all the books to the ground, I guess. Good writers only become good because they've undertaken an apprenticeship. The craft of writing is a life's work. It takes at least a decade to become a decent writer, tens of thousands of hours. I have a master's in writing and publishing. I studied this at a graduate and undergraduate level. I've put tens of thousands of hours into this too. And I've also decided that some of my work should be self-published because I want to start my own business. Can you imagine this in any other industry? Other than, I mean, people do this with movies and music too, but in anything other than like entertainment arts where people want to be snooty about what is quality and what is not. Can you imagine if somebody was like, Susan, you're hand crocheting those scarves and selling them at craft fairs? I would much rather have a quality scarf that I can buy from Macy's that's mass-produced in a factory because then I know it's been vetted through the proper channels. Why is it books that people get this way about? Literally anyone can start a business to sell any product. Unless you are selling something like food or medicine that the FDA has to regulate for health and safety purposes, if you are selling something for the sake of visual beauty or entertainment or something to artistically enrich someone else's life, whether or not it has passed through the proper channels, if you want that to matter, you are literally feeding the capitalism monster. You are feeding it books for breakfast. Oh my god, Janice, did you hear that Betty down the street has been making her own soy-scented candles and selling them at local stores? Can you believe that they're just letting her sell candles that she made herself? I only shop at Yankee Candle because the candles made at Yankee Candle have gone through the proper candle authorities. If a self-published book or a traditionally published book sucks, you don't have to like it, and you have every right to write it a shitty review. But the model is irrelevant. So now this person's talking about being a horrible singer, but I decided to take singing lessons. A month later, I go to my neighbor's basement because he has recording equipment. I screech into his microphone and he cuts me a CD. I hire a designer to make a stylish CD cover. Voila, I have a CD and now I'm just like all the other musicians with CDs. Except I'm not. Everyone knows I'm a tuneless clod, but something about that CD validates me as a musician. So you understand that indie is a thing that exists, right? Or are now you also saying that only music produced by record companies counts as real music? Are you saying that too? Because my friends who are indie musicians would like to have a word with you about that. The problem with some of these discussions isn't just that it's causing people to miss out on really great literature or that it's insulting to an entire art form. It's that it's not even true. And today we're going to take a look at that through the lens of Simon & Schuster. Let's take a look at Simon & Schuster, one of the biggest publishing corporations in the world, one of the big 5 publishing companies that dominates everything in the United States, a company that you will have to get signed with a literary agent for the most part in order for them to publish you, a company that owns tons of imprints and even distributes for other companies. Let's take a look at them and see if they're maintaining quality control in literature. Let's see if they're doing a better job than all of those stupid self-published books. Let's start with the obvious one. Look what Simon & Schuster published. I don't even need to go over this. But let's just take a look at the excerpt. I think my first sexual encounter with a member of the same sex happened when I was 7. Hello, 911. I would like to report Jen Sincero. I'll link the review up in the cards. You guys can read the whole thing. We're not going over this again. Would you look at what else Simon & Schuster published? Oh my goodness, a book by amazing hit poet Gabbie Hanna.
I accept my criticism from talented, smart people, not abusive, toxic, exploitative bullies on YouTube. What is it, you manipulative, narcissistic bitch? You fucking weird ass bitch. I don't give a fuck anymore.
I lost all respect for Gabbie Hanna when she abusively came after my friend Rachel Oates, who is a much smaller creator than her. I'm a tenth of the size of Rachel Oates. Rachel Oates is less than a tenth of the size of Gabbie Hanna. Gabbie Hanna is huge, right? She's famous. That's why Simon & Schuster's giving her a deal. It's not the quality of her poetry. It's because she's famous. It's because she has a massive following. Gabbie Hanna behaved in a way that if she weren't famous, she would have been blacklisted from most author communities for behaving. Also, shout out to Rachel Oates for being the only other YouTuber I have ever seen call out what a shit company Simon & Schuster is.
And I have to say to Simon & Schuster, what the flipping flip are you doing? You are giving book writing, publishing, all of it just a really, really bad name. Actual people who care about books and writing, actual artists, people who care about their work, and people who actually care about their work and work for years, decades to hone their craft are just ignored and never actually get published when they deserve it, far more than this crap about Jake Paul not cutting his toenails.
And in this video where Rachel Oates was talking about what a shitty company Simon & Schuster is, do you know what book she was referring to? They published a memoir by Jake Paul! Jake Paul, I believe, was 19 when he wrote this book, and I don't think I could stomach reading it after I watched Rachel Oates' incredible review of it. I'll link it up in the cards. Everyone needs to check out Rachel's review of this book.
And then, without ever discussing it, we walked together into the shared family bathroom. The door shut and we stood directly opposite each other. Then we made out. It was really awkward, in a really wonderful way. And after a few minutes, we walked back outside, acting like it never happened. Then, a week later, I asked her out. And by out, I mean if she wanted to walk, Crocker Park, and hang out with me. The implication being that we could make out again. She just looked sexy. She was the first girl who made me stop everything and go, wow. So did Julie. Who's Julie? Julie! She was a brunette and had an athletic body. Exactly my type. She also had boobs. Is anyone else grossed out by an actual adult man talking about these like 13-year-old girls in this way? So he ends up dating Jennifer and Michelle at the same time because he's not communicating with them and only thinking with his penis. Meanwhile, he admits that he was, and I quote, also texting Julie and her boobs.
Isn't it great that Jake Paul couldn't self-publish, that he had to go through all of the proper channels to get his book out there? That really ensured that the book was a piece of quality work. All of the articles about why they hate self-publishing made it very clear that real publishers that pay you on the royalty-based model would never publish a book that wasn't the highest quality literature. So we know that Jake Paul must be the next William Shakespeare if that's the case, right? It gets way, way worse than shitty YouTuber books, though. It even gets worse than The Straight Girl's Guide to Sleeping with Chicks, if you could believe it. As is common knowledge in the publishing industry, big companies like Simon & Schuster don't only publish under the name Simon & Schuster, nor do they only distribute under that name. They also own a ton of imprints that they publish through and profit from, as well as work as the distributor for other presses, taking some profit from them as well. So let's take a look at what Simon & Schuster was gonna distribute. One of the companies that Simon & Schuster is a distributor for is a company called Post Hill Press. Post Hill Press was not a company that I had heard of before I heard of this controversy. But let's take a look at what Simon & Schuster was planning to distribute for Post Hill Press. I'm actually gonna give a quick warning here, because warning for racism, police brutality, murder. I'm not showing anything about it on the screen. I'm just going to talk about a story that involves these things. But if you don't want to hear about that, then yeah, okay. Warning over. Post Hill Press is publishing a book written by Jonathan Mattingly, who is one of the cops involved in the murder of Breonna Taylor. I did a video, I've done multiple videos talking about the murder of Breonna Taylor and why this murder was unjust, why this murder was the result of violent police brutality, and why this current police system cannot continue to exist if things like this are going to be excused. Post Hill Press is publishing a book that he wrote about this. Simon & Schuster is the distributor for Post Hill Press. They were going to distribute this book. Now, we're going to take a look at some of the public backlash that happened after this was announced, and Simon & Schuster decided not to distribute the book, so they will not be distributing it. Simon & Schuster seems to think that now that they've chosen not to distribute this book, that people are going to believe they're not distributing it because they don't believe in the message, or because they don't want to hurt anybody, or because they don't condone this guy's book. But we're going to take a look at some of the other books that Post Hill Press has put out, and I think after we look at those, it will be clear that Simon & Schuster has absolutely no problem distributing terrible books written by terrible, violent people, or books that promote violent ideals. This is just the one that got the media attention that they didn't want focused on them. Let's talk about this. Simon & Schuster said it won't distribute a book written by the Louisville police officer who was shot while executing a no-knock warrant at the home of Breonna Taylor, who was killed in the raid. Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly's book, The Fight for Truth, the inside story behind the Breonna Taylor tragedy, was to be published by Post Hill Press. Senior publicist Devin Brown confirmed to the Louisville Courier-Journal earlier on Thursday. Simon & Schuster said it only learned about the book to be published by its distribution client, Post Hill Press, on Thursday. We have subsequently decided not to be involved in the distribution of this book, the publishing company said in a statement. So basically, this dude wrote a book about how he was the real victim in a case where he and his police buddies got away with murdering an innocent person, but he thinks he's the real victim here, and he wrote a book about that. Before anyone comes at me and says, hey, SAVY, you're a free speech defender to the end, shouldn't this guy be allowed to share his side of the story? As I've said, anyone can say anything they want. I'm not stopping this guy from buying his own typesetting equipment, putting the book out there himself, and selling it on a street corner. I'm just saying that if Simon & Schuster wants to distribute his book, that makes them a shitty company. I'm not saying it should be illegal to distribute his book. I'm just preempting that argument because a lot of times people try to talk about, oh, this person wants free speech, but they're hypocritical for this. No, I think that free speech should be protected from the government in all cases. But I don't think that means that anyone is entitled for Simon & Schuster to distribute their book. NPR also reported on this, saying Simon & Schuster Reverses won't distribute book by officer in Breonna Taylor raid. Simon & Schuster has scrapped its plans to distribute a book written by one of the Louisville police officers who shot Breonna Taylor after news of its publication ignited widespread criticism. Like I said, Simon & Schuster does not have a soul. They are out here saying, we don't want to get this criticism, it's going to hurt our profits. That's all this is. The book's still happening. The book will be titled The Fight for Truth, the inside story behind the Breonna Taylor tragedy, and is set to be released in the fall. It will be edited and published by Post Hill Press, a Tennessee-based company. A publicist for Post Hill Press told the Associated Press in a statement that the publishing house supports its author's free speech rights and that Mattingly deserves to have his account of the tragic events heard publicly. He has the legal right to share whatever he wants to say out loud, because he has free speech. I have the right to say that Post Hill Press is a shitty ass company for profiting off of a book about this. If this police officer wanted to print off his own book off of his printer at home after he typed it up, bind it together with some cardstock like an open mic poetry chapbook, and sell it at his own events, he has the legal right to do that. The legal right to free speech does not mean you are entitled to a company agreeing to make a business deal with you about it. It's so weird that people think that free speech has anything to do with private companies. Is our country just like so steeped in the idea of business ruling all that's everyone's first thought is free speech though? Yeah, he has free speech. He has the legal right to do that. But Simon & Schuster was gonna fucking distribute this shit. God damn it. Someone could say, okay, but Simon & Schuster decided not to distribute it. That means they must be an okay company. They must care somewhat about their literary quality, even though they published The Straight Girl's Guide to Sleeping with Chicks, which is a book that literally spreads tons of reactionary misinformation about the LGBT demographic, even though it's a book that encourages sexual harassment and sexual coercion and fetishization of marginalized groups. Even if they also publish Jake Paul's book, Simon & Schuster still has to, they still have to have a soul, right? They still distribute for Post Hill Press. Let's look at some of the other books that Post Hill Press has out. This book is called Black and White: How the Left is Destroying the Dream of Martin Luther King Jr. and Our Founding Fathers. Okay, first of Martin Luther King Jr. was a socialist who was fighting for universal basic income. So I don't think it's the left that's destroying his vision. If by the left, you mean people who believe in economic wealth distribution, then no, the left is exactly what he was fighting for. But let's take a look at this. Of course it's by a guy named Dave. Do I have to fucking review this book now? Of course it's by a Dave. It's always a Dave. It's always a Dave. Dave Brown. The left is out to destroy the dream of Martin Luther King, and it is up to the conservatives of our country to not only understand what is happening, but to stand strong in order to make America great again. Simon & Schuster's distributing this. Because guys, it's important to study the craft of writing for tens of thousands of hours. And if you haven't gotten a big company to agree to publish and distribute your book, the book must be shit. Because only good books like this, only good quality books about how the left is destroying the dream of a leftist. I know some people are going to be like, Savvy, why do you hate on conservatives? I hate on everybody. I think the political spectrum is stupid. I think that the left-right dichotomy is stupid. These are just some of the most blatant examples of books that Simon & Schuster's putting out. Criminal profiler Pat Brown and her business owner's son Dave Brown are horrified at what is happening to the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. I am too. A lot of people just like to talk about how Martin Luther King Jr., about how all he said was, don't judge on race, judge on the content of character. Yeah, he said that and that's important. But he was fighting for a lot more than that. A lot more of his dreams have been forgotten. Like, how about his dreams for universal basic income? How about how he backed having universal health care, which is a thing that would help create not only racial equality, but also economic equality? How about all those things he was fighting for? People seem to really forget about those parts of his legacy a lot, don't they? Or how about the part of his legacy where he talked about how white moderates are even more dangerous sometimes than outwardly racist people because they allow those systems to stay in place while pretending that they're just as upset about it. You know, people who work for like Simon & Schuster who are like, oh, that's horrifying. We would never put out a book by someone who was a murderer cop. We would never do that, even though they were literally about to until they got public backlash. People like that, right? After being refused permission to join meetup groups in her area because she was not a person of color, Pat, a white woman with a biracial son, created a fake meetup group. It was called White Women Yoga. It was called White Women Yoga. They believe the Democratic Party and the push for socialism is making this happen. How is socialism related? Martin Luther King was a socialist. You're worried about his dream being destroyed and you're like, socialism is destroying his dream. Clearly you don't know shit about him. But really, this book's about a woman who was bitter that someone said she was racist for making a group called White Women Yoga. Alright, who's gonna start a punk band and call it White Women Yoga? Let me know when your first indie album's out. Oh, I'm sorry. You can't put out indie music albums because if you do that, it means that you're probably just some trash musician who didn't spend tens of thousands of hours practicing your instrument. You have to first get your big record deal with a big company, otherwise I won't listen to it because I only like real music. Guys, I can't keep this up forever, oh my god. But Savvy, you might say, that's just Post Hill Press. That's just a distribution client of Simon & Schuster. I'm sure Simon & Schuster itself can't have that many more actually terrible books, right? They can't have that many more. Let's keep going. Here's a best-selling book that Simon & Schuster published called Unmedicated. The co-founder of the holistic lifestyle website Daily Ohm provides inspiration and hands-on guidance in a compassionate and soulful way for anyone looking to help themselves or their loved ones. That's nice. That sounds great. Madison Taylor was plagued by depression and anxiety, suffering from chronic physical problems that left her desperate for solutions. That sounds awful, dude. I have OCD. My OCD plagued me for decades. Thank God I went to the fucking psychiatrist and got my medication. Ready for medication ASMR? Thank God I'm not having manic episodes every 5 minutes and having to squeeze the skin on my neck all day to prevent myself from getting cancer, because that's totally illogical. Thank God I'm not always worried that I'll never be clean again. Thank God I don't have to spend all day long having mental breakdowns about everything. Thank you, psychiatrist. Thank you, medication. It's amazing how things can be helped these days if only you see a proper mental health specialist and take your own mental health seriously. I hope that's what Madison did. With her happiness and future on the line, she made the decision to become unmedicated, reaching out to alternative holistic health. Oh. Unmedicated is her thoughtful account of how she broke free from binding mental chains and physical ailments to be happy, healthy, and productive. It is also a guide for you to apply her practical techniques on your own healing journey. Madison offers a daily program of easy-to-follow actions based on 4 pillars that will build a lifelong foundation for health. Clear your mind, strengthen your body, and nurture your spirit. Wait, that's 3 pillars. She said based on 4 pillars. Clear your mind, strengthen your body, nurture your spirit. Oh wait, was build a lifelong foundation the first one? No, because there was a colon after that. There was a colon after that. There should have been a comma or a semicolon, but there was a colon. Who the fuck edited this? I'm sorry, I thought when we're in a big 5 publishing company, only the best editors would be dealing with this. I'm so glad this isn't a self-published book description, because a self-published book description might have typos. Oh my God, look who reviewed it! By giving much needed hope to those who have yet to find a solution for their suffering. Jensen Saro, author of The Straight Girl's Guide to Sleeping with Chicks. Listen to your doctor. Medication is not right for everyone, I'll give you that. But I think it's a little weird that someone who has no credentials is out here trying to do this. Listen to your doctor. Take your medication if you have it, if it makes your life better. If it doesn't, it might not be right for you. I'm not a doctor. Disclaimer. Listen to your doctor. See a professional. Seek professional advice for everything. Medication helped me, but it might not help you. If you have any signs of dizziness, nausea, vomiting, or suddenly becoming a straight girl who wants to have sex with other women and fondle them in the bathroom, then please report yourself to the authorities, because you might be Jensen Saro. So over the course of this video, I talked about a lot of books published by Simon & Schuster that are horrible and ultimately harmful to society. I decided that at the end I would provide some recommendations of self-published books that I've read in the past year that I've really liked. So let's talk about those. Actually, the first one I'm going to mention is not a self-published book, but it's a small press published book. It's a book put out by a small company that is not tied to any of the bigger publishing corporations. I really like this publishing company, and I think that this book is really good. So since a lot of the books I criticized were nonfiction and self-help books, I am going to start with a nonfiction self-help book put out by a small press. And that is this book, Punk Rock Entrepreneurship. This book is so good. This is one of my favorite business self-help books that I read because it really focuses on talking about how to start up your own small business, but retaining the spirit of that business and really finding ways to be creative and implement DIY principles. And the author talks about running a business from her perspective of having previously been in a punk rock band and what that was like, how she ended up sourcing and selling merch, and how people who are in bands and indie bands particularly who go on tour, how they organize those things and how those same skills can translate to small business ownership. There's a few quotes in this book that are just wonderful, that are just fantastic, that I might make art of and put on Instagram. Here's one of my favorites. It's probably never been easier to put your work out there on a platform where anyone can see it, thanks to the magic of the internet. Whatever gatekeepers existed to keep your work out of their magazines, their TV shows, or their radio stations can't stop you from putting whatever it is that you do online. This is the complete antithesis to what we were looking at the beginning of this. This is just beautiful. It's about finding your target audience, putting your work out there, and finding the people who want that. And that is possible. And I really appreciate seeing that acknowledged here. Also, my favorite quote, I've made this joke before too, so I'm sorry that I guess my joke other people have made and it's not that original, but I loved it here anyway. When people offer me exposure in lieu of payment, I remind them people die of exposure. Thank you. Thank you, Punk Rock Entrepreneurship. You are the real MVP. Everyone, this is one of my favorite nonfiction self-help books put out by a small press, put out by Microcosm Publishing. I've backed them on Kickstarter a couple times. They also have a book out now called A People's Guide to Publishing, which I'm still reading, and that book is about how to start up your own small press, and I'm really excited to learn more about that as I continue expanding Forever Home Friends as a book creation and publishing company. Here are 2 children's books that I really liked that are self-published, and I backed on Kickstarter to help launch them. This one's called Ben's Adventures Under the Big Top. This was written by an author named Elizabeth Gerlach, and she and I are, I don't think she lives in the Chicago area anymore, but we met in like a Chicago area kids book Kickstarter group when we were both, I was launching my Forever Home Friends plushies on Kickstarter, and she was launching this book, and it's a book that rhymes, and it's all about this boy Ben going on his adventures at the circus. The book is actually based on her son, who has unfortunately now passed away, and she is keeping his memory alive through these books that she writes about him that are all told in rhyming verse. The book is really good. The illustrations are fantastic, and I highly recommend checking out her work. Another amazing self-published book that I backed on Kickstarter is called Axel and Friends. You guys have seen, way behind me right there, I have a pink plush axolotl on my shelf that's been there for a while, and this is the book that goes along with it. I backed this book on Kickstarter because I really liked how the mission was similar to Forever Home Friends, where they also donate money to helping animals, and I think helping wildlife in this case. And this book talks all about being an axolotl and what its educational information about animals and things like that. And then it came with that little plushie, so it's another book and plushie set. And just seeing someone using self-publishing as a way to be like, I'm producing books and I'm producing plushies just like what I do, thought was amazing. So I highly recommend checking out Axel and Friends and the whole company surrounding it. Now, if you guys want some novel recommendations, honestly, my favorite self-published novel that I've read in the past year, Heart and Soul by Erin Kinsella. This is probably actually my favorite romance novel. This might be my favorite romance novel ever, actually. I don't read a ton of romance, but this one really stuck with me. I highly recommend it, specifically because I have forever been looking for a book where you had a male and female couple, but both of them are bisexual. And the reason that I was looking for that is that I often feel, and I don't know if this is always true, but in my experience, when you have a male-female couple and both of them are bisexual, they tend to both approach sex and gender dynamics a little bit differently than a couple. I can't say where both are heterosexual. I've never been in a both heterosexual couple because I've never been heterosexual. But if you know what I mean, like, that's just been the vibe I've gotten, and from reading a lot of romance where it's like male, female, and both characters are straight, they seem to approach gender dynamics a little bit differently. In this book, there wasn't really as much of a reliance on gender stereotypes or sexual expectations. You had a lot of things where it's like small things, like the woman is taller than the man in this book, and it's not really a point of contention or anything. It's just kind of one of their traits. Another thing being that, like, the male character and female character don't rush into sex at all, and they actually are both relatively inexperienced sexually, and they're very respectful of each other's boundaries and of each other's, like, what each other wants to do. And it's not a matter of, like, having to learn that. Like, it's just the way they naturally approach it, and they don't see sex as, like, this is the way that men and women have to interact in a sex scene because this is what men do that's manly and this is what women do that's feminine. It wasn't like that. It was, like, really just about these people and what they're comfortable with. It was just really beautiful to read. So the sex scenes were really well done. The basic premise of this book is that there is an author whose book is getting turned into a TV series, and she goes to Seoul, South Korea, where the series is being produced, and it turns out that the lead actor in the series is one of her favorite K-pop musicians. So it's kind of the premise is kind of silly, where it's like, okay, there's this famous author, and, you know, the K-pop star's a fan of her books and she's a fan of his music, so they're kind of both fans of each other, and then they end up in a weird situation where they have to pretend. It's one of those fake dating tropes. They have to pretend that they're gonna get married, but of course end up really falling in love along the way. It's a very cute story, and I just felt that everything was handled so well in this. It kept my attention the entire time, and I believe there's a second one coming out, which I'm really excited to read. So one of the best self-published books I think the best I've read all year, and one of the best romance novels I've ever read. Highly recommend Heart and Soul. So those are some quick recommendations I've had for self-published and small press books that I've read within the last year if you're looking for some books that are good self-published books, so you won't end up like that person who's been like, I've read almost 12 books, and they were all bad! Well, I have some that are good, and if you can tell me, if you guys want to know in the comments below, like, if you have specific types of books you're looking for, I can also try to find others that I've read and really recommend, because there's definitely a lot more out there, and there are so many good ones. A lot of them are on my Kindle, and that's why I haven't pulled them up, because I wanted to pull up physical books. But I have so many self-published book recommendations, maybe I'll just do a whole video of that sometime. Anyway, I really appreciate you guys watching this video. I really hate Simon & Schuster as a company. I think it is a terrible company. I think they have a lot of problems. I think they put out a lot of really shitty work, that profit is their bottom line above all else, and everybody who's like, but we gotta make sure the books are good. Books can be bad or good regardless of who publishes them. There's a lot of industry professionals that aren't taking jobs with big publishing companies and are working on freelance, so you can still get just as high quality of services. There's crowdfunding sites like Kickstarter that you can use if you don't want to, like, pay out of your own bank account to get those services, and you instead can take pre-orders from people and then fulfill those pre-orders so you don't have to front any money. There's just tons of things you can do. I talk all about it in my book Savvy Business Owner, which is also self-published. I will see you guys again on Monday. In the meantime, support small businesses. You can still read books that Simon & Schuster puts out. I'm sure some of them are fine. Don't read The Straight Girl's Guide to Sleeping with Chicks. That book will make you vomit, and vomiting is not fun. Have a great weekend.
Get you some nuts.
There was lots of memes.
Makes me wonder if I should take up lesbianism.
Chicago. You guys asked for it.